Okay, so we learned about different types of Nimitta. Now we're going to see how we can do that with our Anapana or breathing meditation that we all do every day. So, all right, Kenneth, could you read? All right, so when you actually look at from the scientific standpoint, Anapana just doesn't make sense. So when you discuss with other people, this is a common question you will get. So let's look at it. Let alone to get supernatural powers. How can you even get any good effect by just sitting and focusing on your breath and being aware of your mind? It's even boring, right? They call it Anapana. Everybody breathes. Everybody knows how to observe the breath if they want to. Everyone still be in Nirvana now. That's a Buddhist scam. There's no scientific proof except some biased research done by so-called scientific Buddhists. That sounds right, right? Yeah? Yeah, that sounds right. So how are we going to say opposite to that? Or how many of you believe like this sentence? Hey, it makes sense. Hey, I don't really believe in this Anapana meditation. How many of you feel that way? I'm just doing it because my father forced me to do it. Okay, good. Dylan, very good. Anyone online? No? Okay. Now, the other one, the second one, we all breathe air, mainly oxygen. It doesn't matter how you breathe, whether with awareness or not, you should get the same benefit. It makes sense, right? Scientifically, all you need is oxygen. Doesn't matter how you breathe, as long as you get the oxygen. All right. So they say that, well, this is just a faith. A faith basically means you're blindly believing in a practice just because you follow a certain religion or a certain practice. But a fact is something scientific, right? So whatever they say makes sense though, right? So let's look at it, whether there is a scientific proof of practicing Anapanasati meditation. Now remember, we call ourselves quantum novice. We want to make sure that every little thing that we do in Buddhism, every practice that we do, we need to have a scientific explanation. We will not accept, oh, just because Buddha says so, just because my temple says so, just because my parents taught me so, my grandma says so, my grandpa says so. We do not accept that. We accept only one, there is a scientific explanation. If there is no scientific explanation, we're not going to practice that, right? Is that a good thing? Yeah? Okay. Of course, if there is scientific proof, then we need to accept that, and then we feel better doing it, rather than just blindly doing it. Okay. There is what we call double slit experiment. Okay. Now, some of you probably watched this video before. Okay. Now, after watching that video clip, you need to answer these two questions. What is the key word in this quantum or double slit experiment? How can you apply that in the Anapana meditation? Now, this looks like a weird picture, But if you look at it carefully, there is one slit, a light goes through this one little hole or a slit. Now there's another line with the two slits or two little holes. Now, when it goes through only one slit, all these waves, just one wave going. Now it goes through two little slits. These wave patterns interfere to each other. Then we put that on a screen here. Then you will see all these graphs. Okay, that's how it will be like. Okay, now we're going to watch that video.
So, what they taught us in school isn't really the way it is. And that our senses are playing tricks on us. You just gotta wonder, what is this reality that we find ourselves in? Quantum physics says it's all just waves of information. Do I believe that? Haha, I hope so. Yikes! And here we are, the granddaddy of all quantum weirdness, the infamous double slit experiment. To understand this experiment, we first need to see how particles, or little balls of matter, act. If we randomly shoot a small object, say a marble, at the screen, we see a pattern on the back wall where they went through the slit and hit. Now, if we add a second slit, we would expect to see a second band duplicated to the right. Now, let's look at waves. The waves hit the slit and radiate out, striking the back wall with the most intensity directly in line with the slit. The line of brightness on the back screen shows that intensity. This is similar to the line the marbles make. But when we add the second slit, something different happens. If the top of one wave meets the bottom of another wave, they cancel each other out. So now there is an interference pattern on the back wall. Places where the two tops meet are the highest intensity, the bright lines, and where they cancel, there is nothing. So, when we throw things, that is, matter, through two slits, we get this, two bands of hits. And with waves, we get an interference pattern of many bands. Good so far. Now, let's go quantum. An electron is a tiny, tiny bit of matter, like a tiny marble. Let's fire a stream through one slit. It behaves just like the marble, a single band. So, if we shoot these tiny bits through two slits, we should get, like the marbles, two bands. What? An interference pattern. We fired electrons, tiny bits of matter through. But we get a pattern like waves, not like little marbles. How? How could pieces of matter create an interference pattern like a wave? It doesn't make sense. But physicists are clever. They thought, maybe those little balls are bouncing off each other and creating that pattern. So, they decide to shoot electrons through one at a time. There is no way they could interfere with each other. But after an hour of this, the same interference pattern is seen to emerge. The conclusion is inescapable. The single electron leaves as a particle, becomes a wave of potentials, goes through both slits, and interferes with itself to hit the wall like a particle. But mathematically, it's even stranger. It goes through both slits and it goes through neither. And it goes through just one and it goes through just the other. All of these possibilities are in superposition with each other. Physicists were completely baffled by this. So they decided to peek and see which slit it actually goes through. They put a measuring device by one slit to see which one it went through and let it fly. But the quantum world is far more mysterious than they could have imagined. When they observed, the electron went back to behaving like a little marble. It produced a pattern of two bands, not an interference pattern of many. The very act of measuring or observing which slit it went through meant it only went through one, not both. The electron decided to act differently, as though it was aware it was being watched. It was here that physicists stepped forever into the strange, never world of quantum events. What is matter? Marbles or waves? And waves of what? And what does an observer have to do with any of this? The observer collapsed the wave function simply by observing.
Okay, so let me sum it up so that you understand clearly. So normally, waves are they strong or weak in general? Okay, so let's say I shoot with a bullet versus I shoot with wave, water wave or sound wave, which is stronger in general? Bullet, right? The same thing that the video in this double slit experiment, they shoot matter or electrons. Electrons are considered to be the matter or wave. Matter, right? So, but when they shoot it through two slits, they become like a wave. Okay? So, but when they put, what do they put? No, they put an observer, right? Once they put an observer or a machine or equipment to look at which slit the electrons are going through. Now they become from wave back to the matter, the powerful one. So one slit, electrons are powerful. Two slit, electrons become weak. Two slit with an observer or a measuring device, they become stronger again. Okay, so that's basically, that is the double slit theory. So the question that I had before watching this video clip is, what is the keyword in this double slit experiment? What is the keyword? Observe. Very good. Okay. So the key is observer. Without the observer, those are waveform, those are weak. Just by putting the observer, they become stronger. Okay? How can you apply that in Anapana meditation? Now we're talking about quantum physics, comparing with our breathing practice, Anapana practice that we do every night when we meditate, right? How can you relate that? Yes, Ricky. You observe your breath. So when we go back, the faith or fact, a lot of people will tell you, all you're doing is just sitting and focusing on your breath. What's the big deal? How can you even get a power just by doing that, right? So it's because when you observe that air, the body of the air, your air becomes powerful. Okay, so now you might think, this is just an experiment. It's just a cartoon, right? Not really. This actually is one of the greatest experiments in quantum physics. So if you observe your breath, the smallest atoms of the air become powerful. When any particle, including particles of your breath, is observed, they become powerful. Particles with nature of weak wave, one observed, become powerful as laser. Now your breath, those particles in your breath could become very powerful when you observe it. Okay? But how do we do that? How do we relate that with the 3 different stages of Nimitta that we have been discussing about? Okay? And those of you might have a lot of doubt still, because what you just watched was a little cartoon. Maybe that's a crazy dude made that cartoon. So let's look at it. Yes. The electrons. So electrons, are they considered alive? So we'll have to, the question is, electrons, are they considered alive? So you'll have to go back and ask yourself, what is the definition of life, right? If you say, are they moving on your own? Say, for example, at school, if you learn about, if you learn chemistry, you learn about elements, right? You learn about electrons and protons. So when you look at an element, you learn that electrons and protons are moving in circles, the nucleus. Now, just because they're moving, if you want to call it, well, because they're moving, I call it they're alive. Yes, you can. But that definition of life and definition of you being alive is different. We call ourselves being alive because we're breathing, we're moving, and we're talking. Do electrons breathe and talk and stuff? Not to us, right? So from the movement standpoint, yes, they could be considered alive. But from the human standpoint, no, they're not alive. Did I answer your question? Yeah. Okay. Right. So that basically is their intrinsic capacity, their ability to do it. For example, a touch me not, a flower. If you go touch it, what happened to them? They close it. How do they know that they're being touched? Are you consider their life? Okay. So that's what I'm saying. So that's all up to your definition. Just because they can react, and if you want to say they're alive, yes, they are. Right? So, but not necessarily from our standpoint as a human being. Okay? Now, that's the intrinsic ability of certain things in life, in the nature, right? Why is ice cold? Why is the sun hot? Right? The intrinsic energy ability that they have. Now, that electrons have their energy, their ability. If they're being observed, they change their character. Just like you guys, right? You're playing, you're crazy. Suddenly your brother come in and you put away your phone, you stop your playing games, right? So the same thing, if you are being observed, you change your character. And the same thing, certain elements have the intrinsic ability to do so. Now, this is Neil Johnson. He is the professor of quantum physics. Okay. Now, he shows this to a group of high school kids and families. Okay. That was actually a long, long time ago. But I want you to make sure that this is what I'm telling you is not a little cartoon that some crazy dude created. This is basic of quantum science. Yes, Kevin. You will hear some of that answer in here.
Our story starts with a duck pond, and with this man, Thomas Young. Because about 200 years ago, he was sitting by a duck pond watching some ducks. And I have here a pair of ducks. I want to have a look at what Thomas Young saw. Just wind up my ducks. What he saw as the ducks swam around was a pattern appear in the water, which you can see down here. Now the pattern was caused by ripples. On the water, leaving the ducks and interfering with each other. You can see it in a more controlled way. Here we have a motor that's actually going to cause ripples, and it's going to pass through two slits. And these slits are going to produce ripples which go out into the water and actually interfere, very much like with the two ducks. You can see a pattern emerging. You can see here, along this line, two ripples are adding up. So you're getting bright and dark lines. But here, it doesn't look like anything's happening. That's because the waves, the ripples, have actually cancelled each other out. Now, this made him pretty happy. First of all, because he liked ducks. But second of all, because it reminded him of an experiment he'd done a couple of years earlier with light. I'm going to show you now what he saw with his light experiment. Here we have something very similar to the pond and the two ducks. Actually very similar to that tank with water and the two slits. Because here we have something that produces light. And the light passes through two slits, actually very close together, because light has a very short wavelength, a very small wave. So you can't actually see these two slits, but it's the same idea. And then the light passes on and hits this screen. You can actually see a pattern that's quite similar to what we saw on the tank with the water. And there are regions of bright and dark and bright and dark and bright and dark. So this set him thinking, well, if I saw the same pattern as I saw on water, and I know that waves travel on water, that must mean that light is a wave. After all, particles wouldn't do this. Let's have a look at what particles would do. For this, I need a volunteer with a lot of puff. Could you come down? Your name is?
Jay.
Jay. Could you stand here? Now what you're going to do is you're going to blow through this tube, and here is sand. Now sand consists of grains, particles, lots of them. And they're all packed in here. And as Jay blows, he's actually going to blow sand through this box up against these two slits, and the sand can pass through these two slits, very much like the two slits that we had with light. And on the back here, we've got a screen which is going to collect the particles of sand as they go through the slits. So, huff and a puff, and blow through the tube, Jay. Keep going. Great. You can do a little bit less. That's it. That's great. Thanks very much. Go back to your seat. I'm just going to show you what's on the screen. And this is it. It's not really a surprise. There are two stripes, very much like the two slits. Because of course, sand consists of grains, like little particles, and they either go through one slit or they go through the other slit. And that's what you're seeing. These particles have gone through one slit, these have gone through the other slit. So this is what sand does, and this is what particles do. They produce this pattern, and it's unlike the pattern that you get with waves. Now we're going to try something a little different. We saw the pattern that light produced. It's nothing like the sand. But here we've got essentially the same piece of equipment as before, but we're going to turn the brightness of the light down. Here we have the source of light over here. And it's passing through two slits, but we've had to cover this up because we don't want any light to get in. The light passes through the two slits, goes over to the other side. Instead of a screen over here, we've actually got a camera because this detects really low levels of light. I'm going to see what we see. Actually, up there on the screen, you can see what the camera's picking up. The first surprise is it's picking up dots, blips. This is light travelling through this, but it's arriving as blips, like the sand, as particles. So that's amazing. But have a look at this. If we collect up all these blips, collected over a time period, and have a look at what the pattern is, we see something quite remarkable. The pattern you see is the pattern that waves make. But the light arrives in blips, in packets, as small particles, which physicists call photons. So this is incredible, because the light's travelling, making a pattern as though it were going through two slits. Because remember, to make that pattern, that wave pattern, there've got to be two sources, two slits. The light's got to go through both slits. And yet it's arriving as a blip, as a particle, like the sand. This is the essence of the weirdness, of the spookiness in the quantum world.
All right. So what I want you to understand is this is a very, very advanced experiment. Even though it happened in 1960s, it is still one of the top experiments today. If you want to go for quantum physics, Now, quantum will be everywhere. We talk about quantum computer, quantum biology, quantum finance, quantum everything, okay? Now, that's how we call ourselves quantum novice, because we want to make sure that we can prove our meditation practice to the quantum level. So over here, one, you shoot all these electrons going through two slits, okay? They become like a wave. But when you put an observer, they become strong again, okay? So how are we going to apply that in our Anapana meditation? How do we do that? So the question here is, can you get Nimitta, all the, we call it signs. So Nimitta is a Pali word, meaning signs with the Anapana. What do you think? Yes? Yeah? Okay. So, but how? How do we do that? Because we just explained that by showing you that double slit theory from quantum physics, right? But how do we apply that in our Anapana meditation? So when we do Anapana meditation, our first step is you just pay attention on our breath, right? You just focusing on the breath. But if you keep on focusing, you get these three stages of Nimitta: Parikama, Ogaha, and Pratibhaga. Now, once you get to this, the highest Nimitta or the highest sign, the counterpart sign, now you are getting closer to the jhana, okay? So those of you who learn about 5 stages of jhana before, you will recall what jhanas are. If you haven't learned that, then we will discuss that later. So when we do Anapana, you're gonna go through these stages, right? We're focusing here, the middle one. We focus on our breath to a point that we get these signs. The preparatory sign called Parikama Nimitta, Ogaha Nimitta, Pratibhaga Nimitta, we go up. Okay? All right. So this is what we learned last week. Whether we do white circle meditation, we do white circle meditation, or we do Anapana meditation, the stages will be the same. Okay, the Parikama Nimitta, the preparatory sign, Ogaha Nimitta, the acquired sign, Pratibhaga Nimitta, the counterpart sign. Okay, that when you get to this Pratibhaga Nimitta, you're getting closer to the first stage of jhana. Okay, when you breathe, your breath should become really bright, like this meditator, this monk meditating. Right, the air coming in through your nose, coming out through your nose should be very bright. Right, that's what we want. We want to focus to that level. Any one of you got to that stage ever? Not yet? Okay. All right. Now we want to make sure though, you guys know the difference between the air bending. Okay. We watched about Avatar before. Now air bending and Anapana is quite different. Why? Why do you say air bending and Anapana is different? What does air bending focus on? Fighting. come back. Everybody focus on the air outside of your body. Okay. Yes, you can practice Anapana meditation. That's fine, but that does not focus on inside your body, right? It focuses on outside to control the outside air. But whereas the Anapana meditation, we focus on our breath coming into our body. Okay, those techniques are quite different, so don't get confused. All right, so where do you keep your mind during Anapana? We just discussed about the quantum physics experiment and example, right? Now, this is what Buddha said. Ricky, read this for us, please. Yes? So when you meditate, your job is to observe the air. Don't go along with the air inside into your lungs, or don't go out and follow the air outside. You just focus on at the tip of your nose where the air touches your nostril, the tip of your nose, and observe the air. Just like a gatekeeper at the city gate, just check how many people are going in and going out. That's it. You don't go along with that guy. Where are you going? Are you going to that city, that town? Are you going to the temple? Are you going to the palace? You don't follow that guy. All you do as a gatekeeper is you check that person. Now, the same thing when you do Anapana meditation, your job is to observe that air going through your nose from the point where it touches your nostril. Okay, that's one example the Buddha gave. Now, this is another example. All right, so Kai, read this for us, please. Where do you keep your mind during Anapana? Buddhist example 2. Go ahead, read it. Just as. Okay, so this is the example that Buddha gave. Of course, during the time of Buddha, there is no such thing as quantum physics. There is no such thing as double slit theory or experiment, right? A lot of people were confused how they breathe, right? People say, okay, breathe like this, breathe like that, you know, focus on the tip of your nose, go along with the breath, go all the way into the lungs, go out with the breath. So the confusion was so bad that people are not getting any power. People are not getting any energy. So Buddha said, just as a man sawing a log will keep his attention fixed on the spot where the teeth of the saw cut through the wood. So your mind, your observatory mind, is from the log where it is looking at the tooth of the saw cutter. Okay, that's where you need to keep your mind at. That's how you need to focus. Now, this might be a little confusing, but during the time of Buddha, a lot of people cut wood and logs with the saw, they know, right? For you, it might be easier with the double slit experiment, right? Or the gatekeeper example. But this is imagining your nose and the air as the log and the saw, right? I want you to know because that's the example Buddha gave, right? I gave you both the science example and the Buddha example, okay? I need you to focus on your breath the way Buddha mentioned or the way quantum science explained to you. so that you gain the power. Okay. So, where to keep your mind during Anapana for quantum double slit experiment. So, what is the I here? So this is from that video clip, right? So let's imagine these slits. What are these slits resemble to? Your nose, right? This resemble to your mind, focus, your focus, right? Your focus mind, right? And whatever going in, all these electrons, right? Is the breath or the body of the air, right? Very good. So these two slits are your nose. This is your focus mind. And the air, the breath going in and out of your nose. All right. So repeat after me. Yatha Buddha Asankharika. Okay, there's an extra A. So Asankharika without an A. Repeat after me again. Yatha Buddha Asankharika. So there are certain things that Buddha also mentioned when you do Anapana meditation. It has to be Yatha Buddha, meaning it's as it is, naturally. You don't force your breath, okay? You don't breathe like crazy, like kind of thing, right? Like we always say Shuddha and breathe really rapidly. So you shouldn't do that. Now you can do it, that will not be Anapana. That will be a different type of breathing meditation, right? But if you want the power that Buddha explained, you're gonna follow naturally, right? Anapana meditation by Buddha does not allow you to do anything unnatural. Everything has to be natural as it is. So that's what it means by Yatha Buddha, as it is. Now, Asankharika is what we call masterly inactivity, or you guys know it as don't react, right? Whether the air going through is so powerful or bright or not, or cold or hot, you don't react to that. All you do is what? Observe, right? You're observing the breath, right? You don't react to that. Sometimes it will be bright for you. You don't become too happy and react. Okay, sometimes it's boring. So you don't do anything. You just do observation. We call it masterly inactivity or asankharika. Okay? So the steps in breathing. There are 4 steps. Okay, when you seriously practice Anapana meditation, your first step is to aware of that body of the air that you breathe in and breathe out. The second step is you are aware of whether the breath is a long breath or short. Now, close your eyes and take a breath in and out. Do you see your in-breath and out-breath? Are they equal or are they different? Different. Which one's longer and which one's shorter?
Yeah.
Okay, close your eyes again and try it again. Remember, don't force it, right? All you're doing is observe it. Now, if you intentionally breathe in, that's different. Now, that's not Anapana. Anapana has to be just observing. Anapana is not breathing. Anapana is observing the breath. Okay? So if you intentionally do it, that's a different type of meditation. So close your eyes and just observe it. My in-breath and my out-breath, are they equal length? Or one is longer and one is shorter? Which one's longer and which one's shorter when you observe the natural breath? Okay, so you're right. So the in-breath and out-breath will be different. Very seldom that they will be equivalent. Okay. Certain people, you feel like your in breath is longer. Certain people, you feel like your out breath is longer. Now, it doesn't really matter. What it matters is if it is long, you're aware that it is a long breath. If it's short, you're aware that it's a short breath. Now that you do it after you finish this first step, then that will be second step. Now, even though over here I say first and second, but when you practice, you're going to practice very well with your first step, then you go to the second step. Now, once your mind is very well focused without wandering anywhere, then you go to the third step. You're aware of the beginning of the body of the air, the middle and the end of the body of the air. Try that for me. Close your eyes and try to observe the air, the beginning, the middle, the end. Close your eyes and try it. Once you can clearly see the beginning, middle, and the end with your mind focus, raise your hand. Okay, very good. So some of you got it, some of you haven't got it yet. That's okay. As long as you understand the concept here, that's all I want you to understand at this point. Now, once you master this step, then you go to the fourth step, the cessation of the breath. Now, you will not get to that stage because you have to be very advanced meditator. Once you practice Anapana meditation so well, you will barely breathe. You feel like you're not breathing at all. If someone look at you, if you're in deep meditation, they will feel like you're dead. You're not breathing. Okay? Do you stop breathing when you sleep? No, actually, you actually breathe very well when you sleep. Okay? So when you are really advanced, your breathing will stop. Okay? So these are the 4 steps. But when you practice meditation, you're going to go slow. First, you focus on the body of the air. Second, whether it's long or short, that the beginning, the middle of the air, and the end. Now, this is where you will start seeing all these Nimitta. Okay? When you get to this level, level 3, you see the word sign here, where the Nimitta will come. Your Parikama, Ogaha, and Patibaka Nimittas will come here where you started practicing this level. All right? Now, this level, number 4 level cessation of the breath is you're very advanced. You are already in jhana state, okay? The full jhana. Now, there are different techniques in Anapana that Buddha preached also, okay? A few of those you already know. The first one is what? Counting technique or Ganana technique that you guys do every now and then, right? Some of you guys meditate and lead in that way. Counting technique, counting from 1 to 8. Now that's one technique. The other is called Anubandhana or continuous technique. So your mind is continuously focused on breathing in and out without wandering at all. All right, that is called Anubandhana. Now the other one is Pusana, or it comes from the word Pasa that you all know. Pasa means what? Touch, right? The contact or the touch. You focus where it touches, the tip of your nose. All you focus is the touch. And the fourth is Tapalin or anchoring. Okay? Tapana. Meaning your mind is well focused and don't wander out at all. Focus on that touch only, nothing else. Now, that is fairly advanced, called anchoring or coupling, okay, or tapana. Now, remember 4C, count, continuous, contact, coupling, okay? These are the 4 different stages, 4 different techniques. So a lot of people will practice Pusana and Ganana. Okay, Puga, 3 and 1, or 3 and 2, and 3 and 4. Which one's common? What's the common factor? Number 3. So the concept, Pusana. So that's why our quantum novus logo in the middle of the circle, what do you see? Passa, the contact or the touch. Okay, so when you practice Anapana meditation, first you should focus on the touch, nothing else. Okay, then you combine with other with the Ganana. Okay, so you count 1, 2, 3, 4 when the air touches the tip of your nose. That is a combination of 3 and 1, 3, 1, Pusana and Ganana. Or once you're advanced, now you can stop counting. You can compare with continuous one. You don't count anymore, but you are continuously making yourself aware of that breath coming in and going out continuously. That is the Pusana and Nirvana. Now, this is where you practice till you get to the Patibhaga Nimitta level. Okay. Now, you pass that, then you stay focused on the touch, but your anchor, Tapana, is your mind does not go anywhere anymore. Number 3 and number 4, Pusana and Tapana. Then that you practice till you get to the 4th jhana state. Okay, so that's how you should practice Anapana meditation. So if you have a goal like this, okay, I'm going to go step by step, then your Anapana meditation will be very meaningful and powerful. If not, then you'll be, oh my God, I have been practicing this Anapana meditation for years. There's nothing I see. I don't know what Saya is talking about. I don't see anybody Bhaga or Ogaha or Brikama. Okay, so if you focus and follow this technique, you should be able to see the brightness of the body of the egg coming in and out. Okay, so those of you spending about 30 minutes to an hour of your life every night praying and meditating and doing Anapana meditation, please focus. Don't waste your time. Don't waste your life just because your parents asked you to meditate. Try to gain this energy. Once you get to a certain level, you start seeing that even not very clear, the Parikama Nimitta, you'll be very happy. Oh my goodness, wow, I see that. Oh, it's bright. Okay. If not, you will not have motivation of doing meditation. Okay. I really understand that sometimes it's boring. But if you practice seriously and if you see at least one level of the Parikama Nimitta with the contact and the counting, you'll be, whoa, that's great. Then you will want to do more and more, right? So we're going to stop here today, but we're going to meditate for about 10 minutes with this technique. So get ready. All right. Sit straight, keep your back straight. Keep your feet flat on the floor and put your hands on your thigh. Touch the tip of your thumb and your pointing finger together. And relax. Now keep your mind focused on the touch. Remember, this has to be not for breath as it is. Yatha Buddha, as it is, not forcing, not intentionally holding your breath. Let your body do its job of breathing. Your job is to focus on the touch. When you're aware of that touch, you can start with the Ganana counting technique. Breathing in, breathing out 1, breathing in, breathing out 2, up to 8. And you can practice that Now, once you're becoming really good at it, as I explained to you before, when you get to total 8 cycles, then you can advance yourself to the Pusana and Anupana. Stay focusing on the touch, but continuously aware. Now you stop counting, continuously aware of your breath coming in and going out. Observing that body of the air. Now remember, we have been talking about these, oh, your breath will become colorful, they'll be bright. Do not look for it. If you look for it, it's not going to come. Remember, just like in the double slit experiment, the waveform will change to powerful particle form only when you observe. You cannot make it powerful. It will become powerful on its own. So all you do is focus on that body of the air where it touches the tip of your nose, wherever it may be. Wherever it touches, make yourself aware of it. Now, in reality, you're going to do that for hours. You're going to do that, the counting technique, for at least an hour. Once you're really good at it, next time you start practicing, maybe do that for 15 minutes. Then you go to the next step, which is the combination of Pusana, or Pasa, the touch, and the Anupana, the continuous one, 4 hours. Now that step 2, you do it till you get to Pratibha Nimitta, where the body of your breath becomes powerful. How do you know powerful? You've got all these Nimitta. Initially, you will see that breath, the body of the breath is kind of like Milky Way, kind of like vague, faint, and clear, but you see it. Don't let your mind want to just focus on your breath. Okay. At that moment, remember, masterly in activity. Okay. You don't become happy. You don't open your eyes. Okay. You don't try to catch with your hands. You just keep focusing on your breath. It will automatically on its own become brighter and brighter and brighter. To a point that it is just like there is a big headlight right in front of you. It will become so bright. Now, if you get to at least Parikama Nimitta, where you can vaguely, not that clearly, but see that body of the air, then you know you are doing a great progress. Definitely your mind will wander. Don't worry, start from beginning again. You might need to do Ganana technique or counting technique again. Then advance yourself. All right, so we're going to end our meditation. So shift your attention to your eyelids and slowly open your eyes. All right, any one of you got any Nimitta? Raise your hand. No, that's okay. I don't expect you to get one because it's not that easy because you need to practice for hours, right? So, but if you ever practice seriously or if you go into a meditation camp, that's what you do. All right. So I am going to end here tonight.